Thank you, the audience. Alan, sorry.
Wow. Obviously, yours of all the presentations was the most commercial. Doesn't mean it's not socially a social enterprise. This is, in my view, pure commercial attribution towards then creating a social need. I mean, the need is there. I happen to know a little bit about sustainable energy. Your concept was much more localized, so to make this project with something like has just by chance happened to know, and you brought other elements which have got social enterprise facets to them, such as micro-mortgage, which we won't go into, but that is a fascinating thing in Bangladesh. I happen to know is quite forward on this. Is that I would look at this project and take this further, because in the macro environment there's a much greater social enterprise possibility than doing in the micro. And there, give me an example. I'm an ambassador of a water charity that puts some wells into Madagascar, but in local villages. So that caused two problems. One was the villages that didn't have the wells complained, and the ones that, and they also complained that the wells in the villages that were there were taking water away from their water table. So a little bit of political awareness there that some people also always have. Some people will have that ability to have your solution and they say, why not us? On the mixing of, and I'm getting a little bit technical, but these are things that in the presentation one should look at. The mixing of ethanol will bring in yet another element as to whether the sustainability of the project is as sustainable as you think, because we know that ethanol has been questioned as to how sustainable it is. You have other areas which I think could be looked at, which is the health side, because I don't know quite my figures, but I believe Bangladesh imports nearly all its natural resource. Therefore, it must be using natural energy, mostly oil. Therefore, if you burn tofu, does tofu have a better medical health concept? And in an area where you're talking about health is a big consideration. Sure. I think you've opened up a big can, excuse the metaphor, big can of worms as far as what one can question. But it is definitely a social enterprise, and you have a harder task, possibly with us, because it's to do with something that's a material business rather than something that we see being a more human nature. But it still has a complete relevance to the social enterprise arena. Well done and well researched as well.
Thank you. I think it's a fantastic presentation. I think the social value you made very clear, and potential social outcomes and social enterprise interpretations. And it is quite unique. My question would be in terms of the government of Bangladesh and their energy efficient initiatives, as you mentioned. You know, how far advanced are they, and what is the market for biodiesel, not just in Bangladesh, but in India generally? I mean, it's been a developing market worldwide, but it's not as forward as it should be.
Yeah. I've looked into that. It's all very dependent on the moves that I can make to further develop the concept are very dependent on whether it's going to be a finance concept or not. For example, the energy initiatives in Bangladesh are immense at the moment. They're very focused on solar energy at the moment, but you can, for example, a friend of mine had a very similar project to this, and he was just a student, just a grad student, and he got a meeting with the Prime Minister just to discuss the project. And now, through Grameen Bank, I've got the same opportunity, but that meeting is being withheld until it's an actual concept. You know, so there's very much scope. They have tax holidays for 15 years, for example, for energy-related initiatives.
I mean, if the market's there, and from your basic financial projections, it's a definite goer. And also with the team you have behind you, from the agribusiness side, from the bank itself, and the others, the World Vision, it's a fantastic concept, definitely got the right players in place.
It's just managing those players as well.
Yeah.
But like I have to build those relationships. It's a lot stronger than I already have, because it's still a very volatile business environment to start a business in.
Thank you.
This is off the delta. It's using land that's not being used at the moment, and guess we probably need some sums on just what it's going to save in terms of importing energy and oil if it's used as a local substitution for importing. Because at the moment, third world, forgive the expression, countries are really trying to reduce their exposure to oil because it's such an expensive portion of the national product, and this looks really quite exciting. What's the population densities? I mean, I know Bangladesh has got the most densely populated rural populations of almost anywhere on the delta.
I wouldn't know the statistics for that, unfortunately, but
yeah, probably one that's worth looking at because of self-sustainability. Because actually could solve some of the fundamental problems of Bangladesh by actually making the bit that isn't flooded every 5 years used more and attracting people off the delta to it. Because I mean, unfortunately, people have to rebuild their houses pretty regularly. There's some wider issues.
a lot of issues still left.
But if it's a commercial scheme, you should probably run with that. But you should frame over the social side.
Well, I'm sorry, David, I'm absolutely agree with you, and actually you touched on something, and that is the political arena. And in all your projects, including yours, but we haven't talked about actually the Chinese government towards web access, yours is probably the most political because of the ramifications it has in the macro and the micro, and you touched on that as well, and whether governments are prepared to give you your reign on the basis, as you so rightly said, that imported oil, which is supposed to be the biggest draw on the economy, if that can be balanced against a naturally produced energy source. So your political connections in your scheme are quite important. And never be scared of political people initially, because you are bringing a big social venture, big social enterprise, and there are many, many elements to that. If only politicians sit down and really see that it is an apolitical subject, and if they want to use it as their campaign, say we're bringing, some form of economy scale here, we're bringing social help, etc., then vote for me because I'm the one that supported it. In my view, I don't care if that helps your enterprise get off the ground, so be it.
First of all, this is an interesting project, Titus. One of the questions that I have is, what you're planning to do is plant the plants all around different villages.
Yeah.
First, don't you think people will tamper with these plants? How do you plan to control that? And secondly, the international market for this. Can you tell us a little bit more about the possibility of taking this to an international level? Because I think it does have a lot of potential.
I think on when I'm initially marketing the concept to a potential village, like once the selection process has been fulfilled and we found a village which we want to work with, we would have to market it as a very communal development-based product that has the possibility of developing them. So if they were to tamper with it, they lose out on revenue because depending on how many seeds they provide us with annually, they get money for that. So it's in their own interest to not to tamper with the plant. In terms of the international market, what
international market? Where is it? Is it Europe?
I know that
US?
Germany purchases a lot of this fuel already from India at the moment. For the rest, I know small percentages, but people are still very skeptic of it because it's typically a weed. So to grow it on a mass level, it's very hard to control the plant in terms of the species and how it grows over years. And there's a lack of research in it, so it's still a little risky in the realm of biofuels. So people are a little skeptic because, for example, if you're a company in Europe that needs, that can survive off certain biodiesel, you want to make sure that you can have a steady amount of that coming in. And if you're working with someone like me, and the volumes that I produce yearly are very volatile, then those are issues to consider as well, I think. I think there's a lot of issues like that, and that's the problem with the plan. Is there's a lot of skepticism on one side, and there's a lot of positive advantages to it on the other side, and no one's really done research, and everyone's a little too scared to get properly into it. So,
have you looked into the possibility of gaining UN validation in terms of a project for the carbon credits?
yeah, I looked at the Kyoto Protocol.
Yeah.
That's something that would have to be developed like after the plant's been successful for 2 or 3 years. But I did consider it as a possible addition to allow farmers to gain a higher income off their crops. Definitely.
I think that's definitely something that you can look further, because basically, the new system where you're actually trying to buy credit, from these projects, and
No,
so
definitely.
you look into that, you probably get an extra source of revenue.
Yeah.
If you wanted to look at fluctuating crops of biofuel producing things, French and their sugar beet production down in southwest France is probably the classic one, and it's been fairly well recorded and written up, I think. So,
Sugar beet.
yes.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, it was actually originally introduced by Napoleon from the West Indies to act as a substitute so that the French could drink sugar-flavoured whatever coffee during the Napoleonic Wars, because we couldn't import anything.
And one last thing to say, please look at the company called D1 Oils.
D1?
D1 Oils, who went into Trophy already some years ago. Indonesia was potentially a very big market, and Colombia. So do have a look at again, in any social enterprise, it's always worth looking at the person who's the forefront person who made the mistakes that you can learn from their errors. And D1 Oils have been a publicly quoted company of AIM and have had a few hiccups.
All right. Thank you.
Can I just, Titus, last couple of comments. One is that in terms of looking at markets, you will probably be aware, apart from India, where biomass and biofuel-related projects are pretty big at the moment. Right across, if you like, the tropical zone as such, right from Far East through to Latin America, you have a lot of activities going on around Jatropha and other biofuel-related products. The question is therefore that it may not be so much in terms of leverage, how you can get into the bigger, scale up the operation eventually around the particular product itself, but more around the business model that you have. And essentially what kind of business model are you developing? And that would be of interest certainly in Bangladesh itself, and would be of interest to other countries. I mean, take Grameen Bank itself, nothing to do with biofuel as such, but the microcredit operations of it. What has sold by Grameen Bank now in Grameen Harlem and Grameen Sweden and Grameen all over the place is the fact, is its microcredit business model and how it applies in Arkansas as much as it applies in Bangladesh and any other community. So it's the kind of business model that you develop which is going to be at the heart of it. And especially because there is going to be some degree of competition, without doubt, given the easy access to the use of this kind of sort of plant. So the type of business model and who you work with is crucial, and you're already on the board in terms of your links with Grameen Bank. And I think this matters politically as well, because I think the point that Kerry was making also is that in using some of the UN carbon credit, carbon emission caps and cap and trade type of sort of solutions, it's well worth energizing interest within the political community in Bangladesh to see how products and programs like yours, or projects like yours, could be part of that solution. And in a sense, give it a kind of sort of political leverage. And to say that, look, one of the ways in which Bangladesh can benefit is to have more projects which allow these kind of initiatives to grow. So Bangladesh can actually participate in a bigger way on cap and trade kind of projects. So, okay, thank you very much indeed. Thank you.